So it's been a difficult 2 years for South Africa's arts and entertainment sector. The COVID-19 pandemic putting a dampener on their livelihoods, that's putting it mildly. Cabinet's decision to adjust the level 1 regulations last night and to lift the curfew could not have come at a better time for the sector, with New Year's Eve being one of the busiest days for live entertainment. The changes also mean that gatherings are restricted to no more than 1,000 people indoors, no more than 2,000 outdoors. So to talk about what this means for the arts and entertainment sector, we're joined now by Sharif Baker. He's the chairperson of the Southern African Communication Industries Association. Sharif, it's great to talk to you this morning, and I can just imagine, you know, how your phone has been ringing off the hook since the announcement was made that level 1 would be changed, and specifically related to the changes to the curfew.
Good morning, Michelle. Good morning to the viewers. Yes, my phone has not stopped since the announcement got made.
Yeah.
Obviously, any ease in the restriction is a positive step in the right direction, especially for the creative and the eventing sector. So, yeah, this has come and is very, very welcomed, very much welcomed. You know, we've got to look at it pragmatically, because any word as in lockdown, as in curfew, you know, touches the heartstring and is an emotional roller coaster for many people, let alone the word pandemic. And for the past 2 years, our sector has been reaming at the challenges that we've gone through, both emotionally, mentally, as well as financially. And this lift now is definitely a positive step, especially for business events, but more so knowing that most events that take place in the evenings now do not have to be restricted to a 2-hour event so that people can rush to get home before the curfew. So just that psychological aspect of there no longer being a lockdown is a definite positive step in the right direction.
So let's talk about, you know, how much can be done in the sector now in terms of event organizing, given, and I'm talking specifically now about New Year's Eve celebration. I mean, given the fact that it was just not even 12 hours ago that the announcement was made that the curfew would be lifted, can you do the kind of eventing in that amount of time in time for New Year's Eve?
We've been ready for it for the past 2 years, Michelle. So, yes, we can, and I'm sure many of my fellow creative practitioners are welcoming this with open arms. Yes, it is very short notice, but by virtue of many events still taking place or have been planned, now can be extended, especially with the alcohol restrictions being lifted for many restaurants and for nightclubs, that allows artists now to not be restricted or inhibited in performing their craft. We've got to look at the fact that we are still being cautious to the fact that we're only allowed 1,000 people compared to 750. It's not a major jump. But in the greater scheme of things, it's the curfew that is now going to allow our industry to get back to work, especially with New Year's Eve, and moving forward, allowing the corporate world and the business world to understand that we can now move forward in a positive step, especially from an business eventing perspective, as in conferences and exhibitions. So it doesn't just speak to live events and great parties taking place on New Year's Eve. It also looks at business events and our creators and our practitioners getting back to theaters without any inhibitions.
So, Sharif, you know, you've talked a lot about what the last 2 years have been like for the entertainment industry in particular. Paint us that picture. You know, in a space where you've got a curfew in place, there are limits in the amount of people that can gather. Alcohol restrictions are in place as well. Not to mention, it is in the midst of a global health crisis. What kind of impact does that have on a sector like yours?
It has had a tremendous impact. Obviously, we're cognizant of the fact that the world has gone through and is still going through a